I just wanna note that Jennifer will speak under the committee reports, if that's okay with everybody. So her up, and you note we've moved the director's report up ahead of the committee reports. It's just a logical progression of discussion. Then, what?
What was the deal that we're gonna put off?
Oh, are you
the
on?
budget?
Are you on?
Yep.
Okay.
We appointed budget committee this month or later?
I think we do, right?
The
This
budget
month, yes, we appointed budget committee this month.
So we need to slot that in.
So we need to put that in here under
New business?
new business.
Within the other.
We could put it in the other,
section.
yeah,
The other section?
the other section.
Other B.
Budget committee.
I have one friends thing, but we usually do that under committee reports.
Right,
So,
let's put that in the budget.
under other.
Okay.
Okay, then, if we could rise for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Privilege of the floor. Okay. Does anybody have any changes to the minutes of the last meeting, October 14th meeting?
Just one grammatical. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th sentence under director's report.
What's it begin with?
Yes?
Schedule has been established and sent into to RCLS.
Pick one.
Hmm?
Or are we just going to pick one, or?
Sent
Just
in, sent in to RCLS.
Oh.
Or sent to RCLS?
Sent
Yeah,
to.
either, yeah.
Sent to RCLS.
Yeah, just cross that into, right?
Take it down.
Left grammar wrong.
Anything else? No.
I move to accept.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Nobody.
Can you tell me who made the motion?
Jim made the motion.
Thank you.
Is
And
it-
Helen Mary? Thank you.
Treasurer's report.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Keith. Evening, everyone.
Anything back?
Everything wrong.
We have the report, the accounting treasurer's report through October, which is month 4, so a third of the way through the fiscal year. I think, as noted at the last meeting, I think we had gotten the money in early October, the first check from the last meeting, but you can see it on the report now. The 50% of the tax levy came in October. I made that change we discussed last meeting with the presentation of the report for building repairs. I added the 25,000 to the building repair line. That was the proposition 1. So now you'll see for the full year there's 30,000 for building repairs. But I didn't play around with, putting more of it up front, even though we just paid that big $12,000 bill. I just spread it evenly over 12 months. So it appears now as though we're over on building repairs. It's just, I didn't change it around. I just put it evenly, so that should work out at the end of the year. So that was entered in there. It's in right now how we wanted to show it. Salaries for the month were a little bit over budget, and I think there were some reasons that happened. The soil that we had spread out there, that Danny put a lot of time in there.
Yeah, it's basically Danny's overtime.
Yeah, probably without that, we'd actually be a smidge under budget, so not too bad considering that. The books, the Baker and Taylor invoices are all entered through September, but October is yet to be entered. So the books, when you add in October, they're probably, you know, right on budget or give or take a dollar or two one way or the other, pretty close. Back to income, the library charges have been better for like the third or fourth month in a row, so we're on track to hit our 20,000 for the year. So I guess that's partially due to that change we made in the fines. But I know we're not in the business of, you know, hammering people with fines, but at least it's coming in where a reasonable amount that we'll have some income there without, you know, hitting the patrons too hard. So I spoke about the building repairs. Other than that, I don't think there's anything really out of the ordinary. On the bottom line, total expenses 420, almost 421. Budget 431. So 10,000 under budget. But we know later in the year we're gonna have expenses that are gonna be over, like mainly the retirement bill. So it looks like for the year, we're gonna be pretty darn close at the end on the bottom line. Probably a few thousand, give or take one way or the other. I think we said, we know the retirement thing is gonna be over a lot, but we're pretty sure that the professional fees should be under pretty significantly as well. So hopefully they'll kind of cancel each other out at the end of the year. But it's gonna be pretty close to the actual numbers at the end of the year. And on the balance sheet, the cash, you can see we have 459,000, so plenty of cash. And we should be getting our second check, by the way, in November. I think we get the 40% sometime in November, the other big chunk of our tax levy. And then the loan payment for November is made November 1st, and the balance is now 116,671.24 with 14 payments left. So just about there. And I have a feeling the last payment should be probably a few $100s less, because I multiplied 14 times what we're paying, and it's that slight change, because when they lowered the rate halfway through the year, last year, the year before, you know, that's the last payment should be, well, the last payment on a loan is always an odd amount, but it should be in our favor. So when we work on next year's budget, we'll have the benefit of knowing that the loan will be paid off during the year. So it should give us a little relief. And more or less, pretty much that's where we're at.
Anybody have any questions for Jeff?
I assume Paul Hayes, Paul May's, fee goes under professional services?
Yes. And I don't think we've received
No, not
anything,
yet.
not yet, yeah. Yeah, right, so we won't be completely, I mean, up until now, the only thing on the professional, I think, has been Rob Schultz and maybe one small thing, so other than
Right.
Rob and Paul, that should be it, pretty much for professional services.
What was Paul's fee again? For,
You get extra.
for something, for something? Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Can I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report? Mary made it. Can I have a second? Norma seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. The director's report.
Okay, great, thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank
Jack.
you,
Thank you,
Jack.
have a great night.
You too.
Night.
I'll send an email around as a reminder, but the holiday party has been scheduled.
Oh, yeah, they just said they're gonna.
It's gonna be at John Angelo's Restaurant, December 6th, Friday night, 6 to 8:30. You're all welcome. I'll send an email, so I just got it from Norma, but I figured I'd print it out. So what's been going on? Eleanor and I spoke recently. She's decided that she needs to spend more time writing, so she's gonna cut back some of her hours on the reference desk for the time being, which may end up, she may end up having to recapture for a little while, because I have a feeling that our reference full-time reference guy might be getting a director's job somewhere across the river. So, we'll see, but for now, she's cut back to about half of what she was working before. Apparently, she's got like 3 books in the works, and
Wow.
she's editing one, and she's writing another, and she's
She just
correcting a
had one.
third, and yeah, exactly, and she's going here and hither and yon, doing book talks, and she just, it's a little too much. But long range plan, after we spoke with Paul that night, I had Ann accompany me downstairs into the, that's okay, into the archives, which, the pit, otherwise known as the pit, and pull out some of the prior reports and proposals, submissions from other architects, anything I could find that could be of some help, so that we don't have to reduplicate some of this stuff. So I have it all in a big pile in my office. And I think there's a lot of information that's probably gonna be helpful to whomever ends up having the task of helping us design a new building. A lot of stuff there. And I was happy that we have Ann to keep track of it all, actually. Continuing education. Jen Cullen, to my left, Casey Conlon, Ann. David's been helping out, he hasn't actually gone over to SEAL, but they took some classes on digitizing local history information to participate in the Hudson River Valley Heritage, I can't ever get the name exactly right, but it's that close. But it's a pretty, if you go online, check it out, it's a pretty nice, I can send you a link. Pretty nice range of stuff from townships, villages, libraries, universities. You know, there's basically people have been archiving their local collections and making them available to the world at large. And SEAL, Southeastern New York, which is a regional library system, bigger than our CLS, in other words, it's the southern part of New York State, has coordinated this effort. And it's definitely worthwhile, and I'm happy to be able to participate. The learning curve, I guess, what would you say? Some of it's pretty tough, but okay. Casey's putting together a nifty handbook, so that if he does decide to go away, we have the information that he gleaned from them, so we can pass it on. David's learned how to do some of it, and Jen. So,
I noticed in his report that he had some questions. Are those to you, or just
I read it.
rhetorical, like the quality of the scan, you know, what the resolution is he should be scanning at, and
this was completed before his last class, so these may have been answered
Okay.
already, because it sounded like he had a pretty good handle on what they had to do in terms of file size and type and
okay,
as far, you know, I sat with them today for a little while, and so I think they've answered those. I guess they got their first posting today, or at least it has to be vetted by somebody at SEAL. The first 50, they want to make sure that they want to keep the quality up. So you send them, and it's a beautiful black and white postcard from, I don't know, it looks like the 1920s or something. Yeah, probably 1930s. I don't. The trees are still in the front yard of the library. Pretty nice.
So is that his goal, to scan the postcards first?
A lot. They're probably going to start with those. Maybe not all of them, but select ones. A lot of people. That's a lot of the content that's up there. We also have some other nice stuff, but it gets a little more difficult when you're dealing with oddly sized stuff. You have to actually bring it to SEAL, and they have special equipment to do it. This stuff they gave us actually Bernie gave us a scanner, and they gave us the identical scanner to use. So we have 2 scanners, and it turned out to be the same kind of scanner. And they're perfect for the stuff we're doing now. That's 8.5 by 11 or smaller. But then there's some interesting stuff that just doesn't fit those dimensions that you have to actually bring to them, and they'll do it.
Yeah, larger. It's difficult to find anything 12 inches by 12 inches
Okay.
and larger.
Right.
Anything larger than 11 inches wide is difficult.
And we have a lot of legal size and bigger stuff in our collection. And that's gonna that'll be an operation in and of itself to just make sure the stuff is transported back and forth very carefully when we get to that point. But it sounds like it's going along nicely. Let's see. Last class for the legal issues, I can't believe it, is Wednesday. So anything you want to know about law, just ask me, and I'll get back to you in a couple of days after talking to Jerry Nicholson. No, it was a great class. So it's heavy. I mean, you walk out of there enlightened and frightened. Building grounds. Let's see. DBRO's returned the lowest bid, they gave us the same unchanged from last year for the snow. I contacted 4 people, 1 declined, 1 was high-ish, and 1 I never heard back from in D-Bros, so. Danny, I don't know if you guys saw the black dirt on our lawn out there.
No.
He ordered 5 yards and to cover the broken plumbing that he had repaired.
Right.
So that required him digging out the plumbing, the pipes, repairing the plastic, putting the proper gauge plastic in, covering it back over, and then
Over there?
yes, yeah, on Hill Street. Yeah, there were big holes. Well, one major hole and some cracks and stuff. But it's been covered now with about probably 5 inches of soil, and he's got it's all taped off so nobody will. So by spring, it should be, it should be safe under there. It shouldn't be vulnerable to the lawnmowers. That's what was happening, I guess. They were driving their rig around in circles. And friends, Jimmy Stir. I guess Jim, you can talk about that when your
Okay.
moment comes up here. And I actually, we haven't had a meeting in a couple months. I think there's one this month. Friends meeting? No? November? December? Wow. Okay. You'll let us know. Outreach. Sisters Under the Skin, which I called Sisters Under the Sun last time I did this. Sisters Under the Skin. Jen, let us give us the skinny on that. I think that's it. Holiday dinner. I'll send you an email on that, a reminder. It's been pretty steady, pretty quiet. I had one interesting report from Casey today, actually. I put it here. I mean, it's not mind-blowing, but all of the numbers at least are rising for total checkouts of ebooks on mobile technology and what is this, mobile, well, anyway, if you would like to look at it, it looks good. I mean, we both have general RCLS materials going up, and the stuff that we purchase just for our patrons also showing a rise over the last year and a half or so. So that's good news. I think that's it, unless you have any questions for me.
Well, you mentioned we might be losing a reference librarian.
Yes.
If that's the case, then would you do a search for a replacement? Is that the
Yes.
And would that be advertised? How would you do
We have
it?
to go through civil service since it's a competitive position.
Mhm. Can you draw the specs on that, or what you're looking for? I'm just wondering about trying to get somebody that can also speak Spanish.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, to a certain extent, the civil service is one part of it. And I think what they require is basically just basically a proof of your education and the classes you've taken. But as far as the in-house job description goes, you can ask for.
So we don't set that, that's, the job description
That's
comes
civil
from
service,
civil
right.
service.
Right.
Okay.
If they call it a test, that's basically just it's basically a resume, and asks you about the education you've had, the class you've taken, but it doesn't have any requirements for bilingualism or anything like that. That would be something that we would add to the in-house job description.
But can we?
I believe so. I'll have to check Jerry Nichols.
Yeah.
How that works. I mean, I've seen it posted in lots of places. It won't say required. It will say preferred.
Preferred, yeah.
But
I think that's how you get around it.
right.
You can't
Um,
require it.
But we're not even sure. We have to look at the numbers still about how we're going to approach all of this.
Mhm.
'Cause,
Suppose we might wanna go with part-time.
that's what we're wondering. We'll see. Yeah. I mean, in my heart, that's not what I want to do. But there's dollars, and then there's, you know what I'm saying. So. Carol and Jack and I are gonna, look at the numbers and look at where we're at and factor into it the fact that I have a feeling that Eleanor may dwindle off if things keep going the way they're going, and that would free up a little money. We'll have to see. It's gonna have to look at it because there's economic and financial benefits for one way, but there's
Cost benefit analysis.
definitely a full-time person is more likely to be someone that's gonna stick around. It's a hard thing to know which way to go. But when we see the actual figures, we'll have a better sense of how much room we have to.
Sometimes the part-time people bring things like bilingual. They bring
Right,
all these
right.
variety of experiences.
I will say on Casey's behalf, he won an award from RCLS for, he did some kind of a Spanish speaking contest for people that, obviously are, that didn't have classes, and it went basically online on his own time on Mango. And they gave you a certain scripts so that you would have, he's not gonna be able to carry on in-depth conversations, but with library related kinds of questions and such. And then they called around and tested the people and he won. So he's made an effort, to definitely, which is but it's certainly something to keep in mind, especially because over the last 2 years I've seen a definite rise in usage from Spanish speaking people with Michelle's programs and with just the library in general, just walking around the library. So it's just part of the community's changing, it's.
That's not a category we have here, is
What's that?
it? Books that are in Spanish that are
Oh,
checked
yeah.
out, or,
We do have a collection, not very big, but it's mostly reference and nonfiction.
okay. Okay.
We could check it, because it's coded. There's a way to pull that out. Anything else?
Okay, let's move on. Committee reports, can we have Jen speak first? So, in case you don't wanna stay, or?
We drove together, so I
Oh,
don't wanna walk
okay.
home. I don't walk home, dude, it's a little cold. But yeah, I can go first anyway.
Okay,
Okay, so I'm gonna just briefly address the class Casey and myself and Ann took, cause that just is the most pertinent. So just to address your question about what Casey said, the questions about, well, what do we scan at, how do we do it? It is sort of a rhetorical question because every item has to be gone through on an individual basis. So if it's a map that's 20 by 20, you don't want to scan it at a resolution that's 20,000 because then your digital image will take up so much memory you won't be able to share it with anyone. But if it's a postcard that's 3 by 5, it won't take up as much room. So just to answer that question, so everything's on an individual basis. We've decided to scan the postcards first because all of them are pretty universal, 4 by 6, 3 by 5. They will all fit on the scanner. We don't have to worry about getting an external scanner. I almost wanted to say Nice Tia, but that's the Theater Educators Association. That's not that. In the headquarters in New Paltz, they do have a flatbed, which is I think like 17 by 24 or something like that. So if we do find something that's really, really big that we do want to scan, we can. It's not off limits. We just have to drive up, use their scanner. They have all the same material, all the same programs. So we just have to go up there to scan it or buy our own giant scanner, which I don't think we'll need for a lot of things. But we decided to do the postcards first because they're the easiest really, and it's a nice way to get our feet wet and see what's the best way to do this. So what you have to do is you have to scan the item at the right resolution, so to make it like viewable on a page, and have people be able to zoom in and zoom out and see little nuances. So if you're scanning a class photo, you want to scan it at a pretty high resolution so people can zoom in and say, oh, there's my grandfather. Whereas if it's not at a good resolution, then I'd be like, faces come out blurry. When you zoom into a map and it doesn't come out right, we don't want that to happen. We want people to be able to view our images digitally. So yes.
so you're scanning these in, how do people access them?
They're going to go on the HRVH website. If you go to HRVH, Hudson River Valley Heritage, they have a little drop-down menu, and it has all of their contributing organizations. Chester Public Library, the Culinary Institute of America has put up their
Recipes?
menus from all over the place. No, they don't share the recipes. I wish they did. Menus from trains and railroad cars that obviously don't exist anymore. So you can look at what else is being digitized. So what we have to do is we have to create a body of work, send it to them. They'll do a quality control, make sure we've done everything correctly. Because if we say this is a picture of kids around a world and it's a picture of Matt's face, they're going to say, no, you need to go back and check, make sure that you matched everything correctly. And so once we send it to them, they make it live, and anyone who has an internet connection can see it.
So do we have to worry about storage?
Yes. Yes and no.
Do we pay for it, or?
It is a fee. I don't know what it
It's
is.
nominal, I believe.
Yeah, I think it might be like
On
or less.
2 year, yeah, it's not-
But storage, depending on how many items we wanna do, we would want maybe an external hard drive that's just devoted to those pictures. So God forbid something happens and we have a system-wide meltdown for whatever reason, we have them saved somewhere else, and you can get a terabyte hard drive for like $80, and that'll put 9 billion pictures. I mean, there's no way we would fill it.
So we're responsible for backup.
Yes, they do not have a,
There's no guarantee, once those images are up there, that they're safe and.
well, they're like in the internet, but if we put up a picture and it's not matched correctly, and then we have it on our server, say, and our server blows up, we would have to rescan it. So they will be on the internet forever, kind of, in a way. But we are responsible for like the physical storage of having a hard drive with a backup copy. Does that make sense?
We're responsible only for
For us.
backup.
Yes.
For us.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she said you can do that with like a terabyte hard drive, which isn't that expensive, and especially if we have one that's just devoted to the digital scanning, that way we know exactly what's on it. So the other part of that is what's called metadata.
That's
So
the hard part, right?
That, yeah, it's time consuming. It's not hard, but so you pull up a picture, and in the metadata you should be able to tell everything about that picture without looking at it. So you'll have a description of the item. Is it a 4x6 postcard or a 12x12 poster? You know, because on the internet things don't always look the same size that they are in real life. Is it painting? Is it oil? Is it pastels? Is it a photograph? What is it? Is there any writing on it? Can you date it? We did a postcard. We did like a practice exercise, and on the back of the postcard I was working with, this one we took from upstairs, it said AZO. So I Googled it, and it's a type of paper Kodak produced from 1922 to 1930. So that postcard and it was just a picture of a farm that we didn't know where. There was no name, no landmark, no nothing. But because of the stamp on the back, and there was no writing, there was no handwritten message, so there was no date. But we could tell the postcard was from these range of dates because of the stamp of the paper.
Right.
So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But it's just very time consuming. So we just have to get a good workflow, and once we figure out the best way to do it, it will go very, very smoothly. The other interesting, also hard part is Hudson River Valley is part of the New York library system, like we have RCLS, and it's all part of New York State. Well, New York State has gotten a grant from the federal government to go live on the Digital Public Library of America, just the DPLA. So you can go to the DPLA of, I think California is on there, and you can look at anything that's been digitized in the state of California, anywhere in the world. So, and it just covers all of America. So let's say you're looking for John Smith, who's your great-great-great-grandfather, who you knew went to California to find gold. You could look at the DPLA, and it would take you to the site in California, but it would also show you his birth record in Goshen. So they're trying to make the whole U.S. part of the Digital Public Library of America. So when we go in, we have to use keywords that are like approved by the Library of Congress. So the example she showed us was it's a car on rail, and it's got a little bell. What do you call those? They're in San Francisco.
Trolleys.
She types in trolleys. The Library of Congress does not recognize the word trolley.
Streetcar.
You have to type in street railroad.
Street railroad.
So when you go in, even if you think it's something simple, you have to make sure, because when it goes live to DPLA, when people type in trolleys, it will say no results found. Search for blank, street railroad. So it will be time consuming, but in the end, it will make us more accessible to everyone everywhere in the world. So it's, like I said, just a lot of patience, a lot of double checking. Is this correct? So it's going to be hard, but not as hard as I think it seems. I think once we get a good workflow, we'll be good to go. Yes.
In terms of the resolution, I know that some of the scanners will have a real resolution and then an interpolate resolution.
Yeah, she talked about that.
I don't know if you're going up that high, but is it worthwhile to scan everything at the real resolution, even though it might not be viable at the current time? You've got the material out, so you make one copy of it at the highest resolution possible, so that if they up their highest resolution, or if we want to provide a viewing
Yeah,
arena
she
here.
did talk about that, and it, like I said again, it's on her favorite phrase is "it depends." Everything is "it depends."
Yeah.
So she also talked a lot about like what kind of files you want to save them as. Do you want to save them as JPEGs? But TIFFs, TIFFs are much higher resolution files, which are good for archival purposes, but not so great for viewing for the public. So are you trying to archive, or are you trying to make them accessible? So she used glass plates as an example, a glass plate negative, which is very, very fragile and very, very sensitive to light. You would want to make a super, super high resolution TIFF, and then you could bring it down. But if it's something like a postcard, which ours are in plastic and in binders and in very good shape, we might not want to do that because it takes up a lot of memory. So, again, it depends, unfortunately. I actually, she gave us this beautiful binder, and in it is everything you need to know. Which looks very daunting, but I promise it's not. So she gave us things like the style guide for their metadata. So when you look at the title, it would be a brief descriptive phrase. Frequently, some things won't have titles, but if you're cataloging a book, capitalize only the first word, capitalize proper names. So this goes into much more detail about exactly what to do and how to do it. And she gives us all of her, HRVH, all of her guidelines. So we're not calling her every 5 minutes, what did you say you wanted? How does this go? Everything is here. And so Casey is taking this and condensing it into a very easy to use system for either volunteers or maybe teams that need volunteer hours to make it accessible to them. So we just have to figure out the best way to do it. And then once we get it going, we can teach other people much more easily. So I have one of these, Anne has one, and Casey has one. So we all have a copy, and it teaches you how to use everything basically. And the scanning is fairly simple. Put it down, you scan it.
Volunteers could probably do that if they were trained. If
Yeah,
it's
the
something that
scanning
wasn't-
is the easy part. The metadata is the hard part. Doing all the descriptive work. So we might have volunteers just scan these 50 postcards today, and then we'll do the metadata, so that it's kind of consistent as well. And then she also talked about things you wouldn't necessarily think of, like how to name your file folders. So we're doing a binder of postcards. So this is binder 1, and you'd say postcard A1, postcard A2, A3, A4, and then let's say they're doubled, A5, A6, A7, A8, B1, 2, like, or do you want to do it numbers, 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D. So if someone else is doing them, a volunteer, they say, oh, I stopped at postcard 47A. So we go to the 47th page, and we know it's the first one, top left-hand corner. It's the last one they did. So how do you name them? How do you make sure that when you upload them to the system, what you're describing is exactly what the picture is? So to make sure that everything matches. So once we play with it, we have to just get our feet wet now and figure out, because we've talked about it and thought about it, and now we just need to do it. And once we get doing it, it'll be a lot easier. So does anyone have any questions on that? You have a
What
question?
about the rights? Are all these in public domain?
Haha. Haha,
Funny you
wait,
should ask.
wait, how about the copyright workshop? We spent a whole day on copyright. Did you know copyright laws have changed so much in the past 50 years that it make your head spin?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anything before 19, hold on, I'm gonna tell you right now. Anything before, I think it's 1927.
I think it's 1920.
I think it's 1927. Oh, no, anything before 1923 is public domain. Anything between 1923 and 1963 that does not have a copyright circle is public domain.
Right.
So basically, we're working under the assumption, anything between 23 and 77 without a copyright symbol are also in public domain. So anything that does not have a copyright symbol before 77 is public domain, which is what our collection is. Most of our collection is early 1900s, late 1800s. Almost nothing is, I think, after 1977. And if it has a copyright symbol, you just have to contact the rights holder and say, can we use this? And 9 times out of 10, unless they're Disney, they'll say yes.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
2023 is when Steamboat Willie came out. Is that what that year is?
Yeah, and now it's the life of the creator plus
50 or something.
I think it's 70 now.
That increased
So
it, yeah.
after you die, then plus 50 years, life of the creator. She said very rarely will people tell you no. A lot of times people be like, yes, that's my great-grandfather's book that he wrote on XYZ. I want that. I want people to be able to see that. But I don't think we have anything that's after 1977. I think everything is 1950 and earlier. So we don't have to worry about that.
Well, there's a way also to make money out of this eventually. If you get the stuff up there, you
Yes.
can have a PayPal account established, and if people want to download the stuff, they can, but at a fee. You know, and you set the fee yourself, and you right.
So at this point, people can only view the
Right.
the holdings of our
Right.
library.
So that's really what I'm hoping
Oh,
for.
okay.
At some point, you know, but we have a lot of them around here. Remember the war that was going on.
Yes, I do.
So I'm curious if we get that up there with the ability to do
Yeah.
that, we could maybe. There's a lot of people that love their history.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of
Stands
people
makes-
write books and they want to use it on the cover. So if they want a very high resolution photo, they can pay, or they
This
can
may
have
start a whole
copies
new
made, or
Hmm.
whatever.
On the copyrights, is there a form that we send to them and fill it out and they return to
Usually,
us, or?
if it's a book, you would contact like the publisher,
Right.
or because like personal letters aren't copyrighted, you can't copyright it.
Do we need to have something on file for us that say, yes, we got permission from?
Yes, we
We have
will.
to have that.
Definitely, yeah.
If we run into anything that has a copyright on it.
Mm.
The way our collection looks right now, there's a 99% chance that will not happen, because I don't think we have anything that has a copyright symbol after 1950. But if we run into it, then we will do that as it comes. We don't want to have to waste all this time doing all this legal stuff and then never use it. We'd rather start with the things we have, postcards.
And you know the stuff that's pretty safe, really.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah, almost.
stick to that for the.
Yeah, almost everything we have in our collection is not copyrighted. And if someone says, "Oh, hey, by the way, we renewed that patent or copyright," and then it wasn't on, like, they talked about things like, say, a train schedule, things that might change. So if the train schedule in 1950 is copyrighted, does that include that specific train schedule, or is it that companies, all of them? How does that work? So that we might have some issues with, but I very, very highly doubt it. But Jen, who does does this workshop, her name's Jen, wonderful, wonderful lady. She has a copyright like expert in her office. So if we have any questions, we can call her. She'll patch us to him, and we can ask him. So we have someone that knows this, especially for libraries and for public institutions like schools. He knows this inside out, backwards and forwards. So if we're like, oh, we have something from 1977 that's got a copyright, and he's like, well, do you have one from 1966? Does that? No? Okay, so it's just that one, not the whole company or whatever. So we don't have to know it inside and out. She says we shouldn't, because that's not really what we're here to do. We're here to make it accessible. She says sometimes people will call you and have them take things down. She's had a couple incidents where people put up postcards and they had names on the back, and people said, oh, that was my grandmother's or whatever, and they could prove it, and they said, I don't want that on there. But she said, I think she's got like 10,000 items. That's happened twice. People have asked her to take something down. So it's not something I think we're gonna have to worry about. So that's kind of nice, because it was a whole day of what law, how does that work? But we have it pretty down. So that's part one. Does anyone, any more questions while I'm on the topic? No? Awesome.
Do you need another scan?
No, I
Okay.
don't think we will, because, well, I don't know yet. We might,
Okay.
if we can get a two-person if we can get a two-person system going. Casey and I did the math. We have over 450 postcards, and if it takes us a half hour to do the metadata and to scan a postcard, it'll take us 4 hours a week for a year to do all 450 postcards.
Wow.
But I think we're gonna, once we get into the system, I think we'll be able to bang, 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 bang. And especially once we start learning the Library of Congress, once we start learning their terms, like now we know trolley's not in there. So boom, we know to go to street railroad. And I think once we get familiar with it, it'll become less time. So I think we could probably have this done. I would say the postcards will be done at least at the max within the year. If not, maybe 6 months. I don't know. We really don't know until we get our hands on it. So, but I'll keep you guys updated as to what we're doing.
Well, with all the people out there job hunting, it might be Ann doing all this, so we may be talking about a little longer than that, because she's the only one that really is in there as a regular.
Yeah, that's true.
Took her 20 years to do
I
that
know.
other project.
Yeah, but this will definitely
Steady
be, I
Eddie.
think, much easier. So that's, yeah. Sisters Under the Skin, a completely new venue. I know you were there on Saturday. I saw your name on the list. I saw you there on Sunday and yesterday, and I saw you there, and I did not see the three of you yet.
Or me.
or Matt.
Guilty.
Well, but what did BJ say?
It's very good.
That it's all reserved.
It's
The rest-
just
the rest of
yeah.
the
I
shows.
think we might have 2 or 3 seats next weekend.
Wow.
We had about 35 people opening night in a 47 seat theater. The Sunday, Paulette came. She was the author. She came and talked. She's very, very nice little old lady. I mean,
Fascinating.
she's just really cute.
Yeah. she's-
And Bernie was there, and we had reservations for a full house, and we had people that didn't show up. So we were able to accommodate, I think, 53 people total, and we've been sold out since. I brought my boyfriend on Sunday, and I'm lucky I put us down because we would have been standing. I asked Ben and I asked Jackie and BJ, and I've talked to Kenny and Donna, and it's just been 50 people every night, completely sold out. So that's really exciting, and people are talking about it, and they say it's great, and they say, why haven't I heard about this? Or was this a real story? You say, yes, this is all true. This is 100% true, and it's phenomenal. So we're excited about closing weekend. Hope to see the rest of you guys there. We're really excited about it. Call. Virtual world, call, because people are like, I didn't know I needed a reservation. I'm like, we only have 50 seats, or the fire marshal's gonna kick us out. So I don't know what to tell you. But it's been absolutely wonderful. For those of you who haven't seen it, it's about a woman named Elizabeth Van Lew, who's a real woman who reported to Lincoln while her slave was serving in Jefferson Davis's Confederate White House in Richmond, and she was passing intelligence on to Elizabeth, who was then passing it to Lincoln. So it's really, really interesting. All these women existed. It's a true story. When Paulette was there, she said a lot of the dialogue was obviously made up because Elizabeth burned most of her correspondence because she could have been hanged. Hung? Hanged?
Hanged.
Just making sure. English minor, you think I know these things. So they finally have found some concrete evidence that this is true, and she said she actually found it in a children's book. So I'm wondering if we have it or what it is, because I'd be fascinated to read it. And a lot of stuff has been published in the last 10 years with the 150th anniversary of the Civil War. People have been digging into it a lot, so it's been a great success, and we're super excited, and we can't wait to see what more historical, biographical things are going to come up, especially things people don't know. Like, everyone knows who Amelia Earhart is, everybody knows who Einstein is, but nobody knows who this woman is. So that might bring up a whole new, renewed interest in something that people might not know, which is super exciting and all about, like, that's our mission. It's all what we're about.
A lot of people interested in history in general.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm super, super excited about that. I think that's did I miss anything, Mom? No? I think that's everything. Does anyone have any questions, either about sisters or that?
Even though they're all reserved, both nights. Well, I had reservations the second time, but the first time I was the 5th or 6th person let in. I was at the last person let in because people hadn't shown up for their reservations. So
Yeah.
just because they're booked, you can still possibly get in.
Yeah.
So it's-
We have had a couple of people standing in the back. We tried to find more chairs. We pulled out a piano bench and a bar stool, and we try not to make you stand. And people who've seen it before or who are working like me, like at public stand that you guys sit. So even if you just show up, cross your fingers and hope for the best. But call. You'll get a voicemail. Leave a message with the date and however many seats you want. And if we can squeeze you in, we will do our very, very best. Any more questions about anything? No? Awesome, I'll shut up.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Bernie, do you have anything to bring up regarding the physical resources
Not
committee?
not much. We got the lead and asbestos test kits, and Danny will follow up with that and try to send them in. You purchase them, and then you actually pay $20 or $30 to get them processed. So, but that's still nominal for a simple yes or no. Yeah. So.
Who's processing BOCES? No.
No, we send
They
them off.
mail them out
Send
to
them off.
somebody, right?
Yeah, so I'm sure for the caulk, we can just, for both the vein and the caulk, we just take a nice piece of
Chunk.
it and put it in the plastic envelope and send it off, so.
And then the hazmat team shows up and shuts down the library.
Just don't breathe this.
Yeah,
Something else, but no.
I have a
That it?
second,
Cupola?
the second cupola,
Oh, yeah, that was it. You mentioned that.
bid coming in, cause as I said, if we couldn't get to it by this meeting, we'd have to, so I got a guy from, Standback General Contractors, he was up there. Went inside the attic, looked around, got on the roof, and he wrote up, during my discussions with them, they were saying, well, I see it definitely coming in, little water's coming around the perimeter of the, inner perimeter of the cupola, but you also have some loose
Shingles.
slates over here, some loose, and then you also have this thing, and if we're gonna do that, you might want us to address that. I said, you know what, just write out everything from, give me a report of the various things, and then the next morning on Saturday, I said, just send me a number for the cupola alone first, because I don't think we're looking, they were talking about replacing the whole roof, this is one of these things where they're just suggesting if you're gonna do this, you may as well just go all out and get it, so, I said, let me see that first, and then we'll decide, because we're not sure how much more we wanna put into this part of the roof, if we can keep patching it for a while. Anyway, so, I got an email this morning saying they'll get me a number by the end of the week. I think that's it.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay, thanks.
If you're gonna move on though,
Yeah.
just,
Friends.
it's gonna do friends.
Jim?
What,
Under other, right, committee report.
Yeah, Friends of the Library.
Jimmy Sturr, he did a great job. He was extremely entertaining. Told all kinds of very funny stories over the years, various venues that he's traveled to and different celebrities he's worked with. Unfortunately, there was a very small turnout, and it was really unfortunate because originally people thought, the place would be packed, but it wasn't. So. But he was very gracious and gave us his time and energy, and it worked out well for those that were there. The other thing is Linda's is now selling a Christmas ornament which has the picture of the library on the face of this medallion.
They're beautiful.
They really are nice.
Yeah, we snagged one.
She had ordered 200. I think half of them are already gone.
Mm.
It's the first, her plan is to each year to have another ornament with another building in Goshen, so that you can have a collection over the years of these ornaments, and it seems to be a big success. She's donating $2 from each sale of each item to the Friends.
Nice.
So all that money will come to the
Wow.
Friends, and then that'll go into the library, which of course is the mission of the Friends. She's been great, great supporter. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
do you, Sunshine Committee, do we usually donate to the Christmas?
Yes, we do.
Mhm.
So,
Usually.
you wanna discuss
We-
that?
Yeah.
Do the, don't you have like
A breakfast.
breakfast?
Yes.
And that's what we usually buy
Right.
bagels.
Oh, okay.
It's like we
Right.
give $50 toward that or
Yep.
something, don't we? Bagels, donuts.
Yeah, there's other things we pay.
We pay for this one,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah, this is everybody pays
Right.
themselves.
That's right, I didn't tell you.
But
It's like
we,
$23 each if you come.
Oh, that's 23.
Yeah.
but we usually give them $50 toward their breakfast party.
Right, right.
And the breakfast is what?
That we
You haven't figured that out yet?
No.
It's usually like the last Friday before Christmas or the second to last Friday
because
before
this is when,
Christmas,
this
right?
is,
That's the 6th.
yeah, it's late,
It's later.
I don't,
We'll have a board meeting and then we'll have a staff meeting after
okay,
that in December.
okay.
Usually the
Right,
Friday
that's
after the
right.
staff, after the board
Okay.
meeting.
That's why I'm thinking it's the second or third Friday.
Right,
if I'm
right,
not
right.
Okay, so there's one more meeting before that.
Yeah, we have our meeting on Monday, they have their meeting that Friday, right?
Yes.
And that's usually the December staff meeting is there also, Christmas party, and that's what we throw $50 toward.
So I've got the kitty on that. I'll
Okay.
give that to you.
Thank you.
Okay. I put on the new library initiative under unfinished business, but I think we have to move that into the executive session as, there's a couple of things that we should discuss, not yet in the open. So,
Contractual matters.
contractual matters, yes. So let's move on to new business and the adult. Wait. No, the budget committee. Sorry, that's my
What was that
writing.
about?
It's like
There's no other
a-
unfinished business? Just checking, it's there, just asking.
I can mention that there's been a lot of RCLS stuff. I went to, Norman and I went to the seminar with Jerry earlier in the month, or was it last? It was after the last meeting.
I can't even remember what it was. Seems like a long
And I
time
just looked
ago.
on my calendar. I don't have it. But it was very informative. That one was more kind of a preaching to the choir. You're all trustees. This is what you need to do, and type of thing. He did have a PowerPoint, and when we receive that, we'll distribute that out as well. And then this week there was a DLD webinar that he did too, and they recorded that. So when I get notification on that, I'll send that out too. That one was more what trustees need to know legally, what they need to do legally, and we've covered a lot of it here. We have to appoint people, lots of structure, but there was a lot of interesting things to look up and learn, type of deal. But I'll send that out too. I just want to mention that. And then there's also something this week, if anybody's interested, is there's a LARC meeting down in Valley Cottage. I'm going to go after work, but if anybody's interested in that, I can give information on that.
That's a LARC meeting?
Yeah,
What's that?
Library.
Association of
Yeah, Rockland County.
Rockland
Thank
County.
you.
Yeah,
Couldn't think
but
of
it's
I know, I don't know
Oh,
what
with the C.
that's so obvious, I know.
yeah, but it's more library.
General
Same type,
library.
library advocacy. That's what it is, library advocacy. But, and then come February, the end of February is the trip upstate as well. So if anybody wants to put down the calendar and go.
Yeah, Susan, you mentioned something that reminded me in the minutes. The board appoints people. We voted, right? That's the word you used, right? Appoints
For the budget committee. Or,
for hiring.
oh, we do appoint, yes.
We appoint
Yeah, Matt goes through the process of selecting.
He recommends.
He recommends.
He recommended we appoint, because in the minutes, it says, the board approved the rehire of. I think we really should,
Oh.
in the future, we should use the term appoint. The board voted to appoint,
Mhm.
that you would recommend
That's
this
correct,
person.
right.
Because technically, that's, I think, what we're supposed to do.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so that's, I don't know if you need to change the language, we've already
Oh, we're aware of
approved
it.
minutes,
We
but
can
in the
move to
future,
correct, we can move to
that's
correct it on
language.
this one. She's gonna,
Sounds like we're gonna be appointing more people,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
given them
she'll get
shift.
plenty of practice with this town
Mhm.
properly.
Yeah, the reason why I wanted to clarify that is that, technically you can't hire,
Right.
the board appoints, you don't hire. You recommend and then we appoint. 'Cause
Right, its language is a little funny, you're right, it's the director selects the person and then brings them to the board, who then, I guess you use the word veto, you could veto
If
Okay,
it,
the
but.
board doesn't approve it, that person's
Right,
not gonna work
doesn't.
here.
Right.
Same with the school board.
The same way.
Yeah.
But Jerry is very careful to say you have to, I mean, every board is different, but he's very concerned with the board making those determinations. He said, really the way it should work is you should have enough faith in your director
Oh,
to
yeah. It would
make
be very
those
unusual.
decisions,
It would be
right.
Extraordinary.
but that's the, and I can see how it can be a tricky process, and he said it becomes all the more important that the board is brought to speed on the person's credentials, where they've worked, et cetera. You'd never dream of just bringing someone in and think you're gonna hire them without giving the board a proper rundown of the person and what they're about. But it does sound like because even Jerry says the way that he has parsed it in the trustee handbook is open to some scrutiny by a lawyer. I mean, no one knows it's not a cut and dried thing. But the way he likes to say is just try to bear in mind that director selects, board appoints, which I think you use the best term for, which means you sort of veto power in the end.
Mm.
It's my job to figure out who I think would be the best fit. I bring it to you and I make my plea, and you guys either buy it or you don't at that point. So you do have ultimate authority in a sense over whether the person works or not. But I think he's trying to keep the roles separate, as different in a college setting where you do have the board members sit in on it generally doesn't happen like that in public libraries.
What-
But it also depends on the size of the library, I'll bet you, because I've been to, big interviews at big libraries. Well, have I ever? Yes, where there's a mixture. I've been to libraries where you've had the head of the system, the library director, and 2 board members. And I've been to most of them where, where the interview process is, you don't even meet the board members till it's done. So
Mhm.
I think there is some room there depending,
Right.
but I think the important thing to remember is that I do the legwork of trying to figure out who I think will best fit that role, and then I bring that to you and make my case, and at that point, it's decided as to whether.
Because you gotta watch the board doesn't micromanage.
Right, that's the concern, is micromanaging. And generally, the lower the position, the less,
The less
pages,
input we have.
and they're gonna, a high school kid wants to put books away, that's not gonna be, you let them know, and they're still appointed because they are, they're a labor class, but they're still.
One thing they did mention in the DLD was interesting was just the subject of conflict of interest, and not only for blatant conflict of interest, but just even the appearance of conflict of interest.
Thank you, Gabby, don't go.
And what I thought of was, you asked about, what did you ask Laura about?
Oh, the plumber?
The plumber.
Yeah.
Okay, and she neglected, not neglected, she did not say use our people, use people we know.
Even though I approached it as, we're looking for a freebie.
Yeah, we're just looking for an
consultation.
opinion, we're not looking for,
Opinion, right, we're not
but
looking
she was, even as a past board member, she's careful to say, well, no, everything around me has to be removed. Or whatever her reasoning was, she just said
Right.
she wasn't going to have anybody she knows get involved, and so that was important. They did bring the thing of, if my daughter wanted to work as a page, he might have even said that she shouldn't,
Mhm.
because that is,
Appearance.
that's appearance of, even though
Mm.
it's just shelving books,
Right, yeah.
So it's interesting, some aspects of it were interesting.
I'll tell you something quick, interesting, Jerry probably watched this, but it was really interesting to be there with you guys and see how he moderates his persona, and I don't think I'm saying anything he doesn't know. He's in a room full of directors and it's all sort of, you gotta watch the board, it's all kind of how to manage your board. Then he's in the room full of the board members, he's like, those directors, you gotta, it's just fun to watch and see him play, cause I'd gone to the class that afternoon and then straight to that evening, I was like, wow, he's something else, walking that tightrope,
Who manages who, really?
Yeah, right. So, budget committee?
Oh, budget committee.
What
We're
needs,
looking.
yeah. What needs to be done for a budget committee?
I think we
It's
just need volunteers, but how many people did we have last year? And I'm looking at you, 'cause it was
Just
you.
Just
two,
Just
yeah.
you two.
Yeah.
You
I know it was
happy
3
campers?
when
Oh,
I
that's
did
right,
it
he
with.
wasn't here, that's why we,
I'll volunteer again.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
it was not a lot of time.
it was painless.
It was
yeah.
yes, it was
Yeah,
indeed.
Yeah.
it was
I'll
just
do it
funny
again.
to ambush
Okay.
you, sorry.
Expertise.
Oh, that was easy.
So there's
Two
no
of us.
motion.
Yeah.
or
There's no
anything,
motion, I
just-
think you just volunteer to do it, right?
Right,
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
okay, great.
thank you.
Just coordinating 3 times.
Well, yeah.
Anybody have any proposed agenda items for next month's meeting? Or is there any other new business we need to discuss?
I don't think so.
Or I move on?
Well, depending on how our conversation about the new library initiative goes, we might have that on the agenda for next month.
That's true, right.
What's that?
So we can't,
I think we'll always have the new library
Yeah.
initiative on our
Oh, we can
agenda.
always-
Well,
yeah.
We can always
okay.
modify
haven't
the
had it
agenda
until
There's always
now,
something
but-
we're gonna have
As
to
needed.
talk about,
Yeah.
sure.
Depending
Yeah.
what we discuss here, if we need to make any decisions.
I think it'll always be ongoing until it's built or it's voted down.
Holy shit. They run us out of
So,
town.
run us out of town, exactly.
Well,
Okay.
whatever.
Well, we'll play it by ear as far as the agenda.
Okay.
Privilege of the floor.
Anybody?
Oh, I'm sorry, that's right.
I don't actually.
That's right, you weren't on the board.
So I should be.
I have one more question, just for Carol. Are we allowed to use machines still for voting?
It had, I believe it's been determined, it hasn't been taken away from us yet.
Okay. No, and there's still time.
Well, I
But I
gotta
just
say,
remember it was
they really worked for this last election. I don't know about you, but I did a paper ballot and they couldn't scan it.
Yeah, same with me.
It's a joke.
And 25% of people didn't fill in the back of the ballot apparently.
Yeah.
So
They didn't
Yeah.
tell you. I
They,
didn't know.
they did explicitly to me when
They
I,
didn't
but it was
tell
just like, oh, and there's a back to it. I'm like, oh, thank you. And
I had no idea. They didn't tell me. I come outside, my husband goes, so did you vote on this? No, I didn't.
Anyway.
Anyway, but yeah.
Okay, then I'd like to move into executive session.
I'll make a motion.
Mary will make the motion.
I'll second.
And Jim will second it. So,
8:30.
30.